Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the long and winding railroad here at postwrestling.com. It's our look back at the greatest era of in-ring professional wrestling in the history of the entire sport, and that's All Japan Pro Wrestling of the 1990s. And my name is W.H. Park, and first of all, I want to thank all the people who sent me some nice messages about how much they enjoyed the Kenta Kobashi biography episode I did with Case Lowe in the last episode. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. And just as a preview for the next biography, we're going to round out the four pillars. We're going to do an episode on Akira Taue that I think will probably illuminate how great this guy is, because there's a lot of slander towards Akira Taue out there, which I just cannot stand for. So we're going to change people's minds when we get around to doing that particular episode. But today it's not a biography episode. We're going to do a match review today. And joining me is a member of the Post Wrestling team. He's one of our reviewers. He does a lot of the Japanese shows that I don't have the time to watch. I don't have the inclination to write reports about, or I just don't watch these particular promotions. And that is Mark Buckeldee. Mark, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, WH. Thank you for having me on.
And you do a lot of the reviews for, like, say, for example, DDG Pro Wrestling and its affiliates like TJPW or what have you. I might do something about Noah because I actually like Noah for the most part. But a lot of the stuff that we might not cover on audio, you will do write-ups for us for the website.
Yeah, so I've been doing the written reviews for New Japan for a bit of a while now, actually, because I think the first review I did for the site was when Wei and John actually went to the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom.
That's right. I remember because John was trying to figure out who can do the review, and I think because I had met you in June of that year or the year before, right? It was that 2019, yeah. And because we met at Dominion, which had what was the main event again? Was that Okada versus Jericho?
It was Okada versus Jericho. Yeah,
that fucking match was shit.
Oh, yeah.
But it had that nutty match between Ibushi and Naito. Yeah, where listen, I know people are like, I don't care if they try to kill each other. Listen, you see that shit live, you're gonna care. I was like, holy shit! I think either one of those two at some point in the match, I was like, I think they're dead. If you don't care, that's fine. I'm not telling people how to enjoy wrestling. What I take kind of umbrage to sometimes, to an extent, Mark, is when people tell me how I should feel about watching a wrestling match. You know what I mean? Or how I should comment about wrestling, or watching a wrestling match. If I want to say, hey, maybe these guys should take it fucking easy, that's my prerogative. If you think they should just murder each other with their crazy moves and stuff, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to tell you how to enjoy wrestling. Don't tell me how to enjoy wrestling or how not to enjoy wrestling, as it were, either.
Oh yeah. It's at the end of the day, your whole life is your experience of everything, basically. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's up to you to make up your mind on things, and part of life is learning that.
Definitely. So hey, we met there at that show, and then I think we kept in touch via Twitter and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, you should contact Mark Buckeldee at Monkey Buckles. That's your Twitter handle, and he did, and it was either John or Wei. I forget which one actually contacted you. It was John, and then the rest is history. You've been with us for 2 years now.
Yeah. Pretty much. It's funny, actually. When we met at Dominion, I actually thought I may left a bad impression on you. No, it was fine. I had a very good time that day. It was hot as hell. The only thing that left a bad impression on me was the weather, as usual. Being summers in Japan, I'm not a huge fan of summertime in Japan. One of the things I'm not missing about Japan, being back in Canada, is the hot and humid weather that comes from about the time of the end of May up until the end of September. So not missing that, Mark. I actually like the very comfortable, cool weather we have here in Toronto during the summer months. Oh yeah. Well, I'm English, which basically means we appreciate the hot days of summer that we get because we don't get a lot of them.
No, you guys tend to have a lot of inclement weather. I think what I have to say is
Yeah.
like with rain, a lot of rain in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, definitely. Some the For June, it's been all over the place, really. With weather, it's like you think it's sunny for a couple of days, and then it's horrible. And I've just realised how much of an English stereotype I am because I'm talking about the bloody weather.
Oh, it's okay. That's why I called you to come on the show to provide some of the English stereotypes that I always like getting from people like JP Houlihan and Martin Bushby, people like that. So it's more than welcome. Don't worry about it, Mark. But let's talk about your fandom of All Japan Pro Wrestling from this era. Like, how did you get familiar with it? Because you're a fan of wrestling of all varieties.
Yeah. So, unlike most people, I ended up getting into wrestling in sort of my mid to late teens, and I had no family that watched it. So it was WCW Worldwide, which, when I first saw it, because it was on primetime British TV, even had Batman-style POW graphics to hide a lot of the violence. And from there, I ended up getting into WWE. And then really Japanese wrestling was in 2004, I think it was. There was a British channel called the Wrestling Channel, and they had a lot of US indies. They had TNA, they had Ring of Honor, but they also had Japanese wrestling. So they had Noah, they had Gaia, they had 01 at one point. And that's where I first became aware of Japanese wrestling. And then as I got into Ring of Honor, I was a big Ring of Honor fan. And I started going on the message boards. And so the area when I was really into Ring of Honor was 2006. So you had Kenta coming in, you had Marufuji coming in, you had the Dragon Gate guys. So that's when I really became aware of Japanese wrestling. And then when you become more aware of Noah, you then realize, well, hold on, these guys came from All Japan.
And then so you just do like kind of go backwards and then think, okay, I like Kenta Kobashi, I like Mitsuharu Misawa, but they're like, kind of older at this point in 2006. Like were they always in Noah? Oh no, there was something before Noah called All Japan Pro Wrestling. And so you would go, how would you go find like the matches for All Japan stuff?
I was never a tape trader. I was too late really for tape trading. So by the time I was looking for Japanese wrestling, I was using message boards. And then this was at the time when basically it was all download links. It was like media upload and all that. And it shows how trusting we were, that you'd go on to a wrestling message board and someone would put a random download link and you just think, oh yeah, I'll download that. And looking back, it's like, yeah, if someone was really unscrupulous, a lot of people's computers could have really got messed up by that. But and so it was message boards like Ring of Honor message board. L&WRR was a massive tastemaker back then because he'd have like threads on the CCW fans, and I'd just be seeing all the match recommendations on there. And then I came across Ditch, and he was another guy that was just recommend matches, and I'd just follow through them. And funnily enough, I just dipped into pretty much almost anything, and completely by accident, I ended up writing about Japanese wrestling for about a year on a website called Inside Pulse, and then I just fell out of it.
And so let's talk about today's match review. What are we going to be talking about today, Mark?
Today we're going to be talking about Mitsuharu Misawa and Yoshinari Ogawa versus Kenta Kobashi and Jun Akiyama from the 23rd of October, 1999.
And this is the, collectively Misawa and Ogawa are known as the Untouchables. They're part of a larger faction of like about 4 people, also in the group, but this is the main portion of that group. And Misawa and Okawa, Misawa is of course the leader, and Ogawa is his regular tag team partner. And then on the other side, we have the faction of Burning, which is the faction created by Kenta Kobashi and Jun Akiyama, and also includes Kentaro Shiga and Yoshinobu Kanemaru as well in that group. And you can see them as being seconds in this match. But this is basically Untouchables versus Burning. It's a hot feud. It's a carryover of the feud that Misawa has been having with Kobashi ever since they broke up as tag team partners and Kobashi left the Super Generation Army. And by all accounts at this point, Mark, like Super Generation Army, which started in the early 90s, is pretty much done. By this point, Kawada has already left years ago to form the Holy Demon Army with Akira Taue and Akiyama, and Kobashi left soon after, and then Akiyama became Misawa's partner, and then Akiyama left Misawa to join up with Kobashi, and then now Yoshinari Ogawa got called up to be Misawa's partner, and Ogawa was in the Holy Demon Army faction before. It's a really interesting kind of one of those charts you can make on a whiteboard, putting up Post-it notes or what have you, and then just drawing all the lines connecting the dots and relationships that these people have with one another. But essentially, this is the late 90s. This is 1999. We're getting to the tail end of this era of the King's Road, as the Exodus is going to be coming about a year later. With Misawa taking everyone to go basically to form Pro Wrestling Noah. But this is a really interesting time, especially I think for tag teams in the company, because you have the Holy Demon Army still running around, like Taue and Kawada, who are basically the premier tag team, not only in All Japan, but I feel in the world at this time as well. But they've had about a 5-6 year run at this point. So, they're not the freshest team around, but you got all these really great tag teams that have just been formed in the last year or so. Misawa and Ogawa, Akiyama and Kobashi, but also you also have teams like, believe it or not, Johnny Ace and Mike Barton, the former Bart Gunn, who was brought in because Baba saw him knock out Steve Williams in the Brawl for All and thought, yeah, I'm going to bring that guy over. He's got legitimacy in my eyes because he knocked out Steve Williams, so he was brought over paired with Johnny Ace, and they were actually a really fun team to watch. You also had the rising of No Fear of Takao Mori and Yoshihiro Takayama as a great tag team in the division as well. It's just a really exciting period, I feel, in All Japan's tag division.
You also had, the year before you had Hansen and Vader, which is arguably the most ridiculously OP tag team you could probably ever have.
Well, you could go back with Vader and talk about his tag team with with Bam Bam Bigelow in New Japan.
Oh yeah, good point.
But yeah, I don't know. For me, it's Hansen by '98 is kind of done, and that tag league that they were in together was a good resurgence for Hansen, but it didn't last for very long. By this point, Vader is now teaming with a variety of people. Scorpio hasn't been brought in to be his tag partner yet. I think Scorpio's kind of milling about I don't know if he's in the company in 99. I think he comes in the tail end before the Exodus, and he's doing junior heavyweight stuff for All Japan. So, but at this point, Vader is just teaming with random people here and there. What I think they should have done was put Vader with Gary Albright. I think Gary Albright's still running around. I don't think he passed away at this point. So that would have been an awesome team, Vader and Gary Albright.
Oh, definitely. It's funny that you said about Burning and Misawa Nagawa, because you look at, you can argue that Akiyama and Kobashi have been working with each other pretty much since Akiyama joined the Super Generation Army. So, even if they've not been teaming in traditional tags, they've been in the 6-man tags for years. But as you said, Ogawa had always been on the other side against Misawa. So before he was on the Holy Demon Army side, he was part of Sarutagun. So it's Misawa formed this established team with a guy that pretty much for most of his career he'd always been on the other side with and against.
Oh yeah, even before the Holy Demon Army, and before Tsuruta, he was actually in the Revolution, which was Tenryu's group, which had, Kawada, and like Misawa was always like, before that, was affiliated with Jumbo Tsuruta. So for pretty much the entirety of Ogawa's career, he and Misawa had been on opposite sides. And the other thing about Ogawa that's just interesting is that, he was always a junior heavyweight. In fact, at the time of this match, he's one half of the World Tag Team Champions. This match is also for the All Japan Pro Wrestling World Tag Team titles. But at the same time, Misawa is the current holder of the Triple Crown, and Ogawa is actually the current holder of the PWF, the Pacific Wrestling Federation Junior title. So, and like I have notes here, like he is in the midst of his where's that my notes for this? He's in the midst of his third reign as junior heavyweight champion. And this is his final reign because, of course, he would be going to Noah and dropping the title. But he has been the champion for 698 days. But before you think, wow, what an amazing title reign, he's only had like about 5 or 6 title matches, defenses of that title. So just, kind of something you got to understand about Giant Baba. He never really cared about his junior heavyweight division or his junior heavyweight title. So, like someone could hold it and he'd probably forget who was the champion at some point before maybe they walk by him backstage. And it's like, oh, Baba-san, I have the junior title. Like, do you want to take it off me at any point? Oh, let's have a title match with you and, Phil LaFon or, Dan Crawford, whatever name he was using at the time.
Yeah, I mean, 600 days sounds a lot until you realize I think Fuji had that belt for nearly 4 times that.
Yeah, and he probably defended it like maybe 7 times that time period, maybe. So, but yes, so you had picked October 23rd, 1999, Burning versus Misawa and Ogawa, the Untouchables, who are the current World Tag Team Champions, and this is for the titles. And why did you pick this match, Mark?
Honestly, I was actually inspired by your last podcast, the one with Case Lowe, going through Kobashi, and I was listening to that, and you'd asked me to do the podcast, and I had no specific match that stuck out, and I was just listening through and thought, well, yeah, I've heard good things about a few different periods, and I just thought, well, let's look at a period that you've not really covered on the podcast before. And then you were talking about the Misawa and Ogawa tag team and their matches against Burning. And I thought, well, I've heard good things about that and I've not watched it. So I just sat down and watched it. And there was just things about this match that just really stuck out and just thought, yeah, it's definitely worth talking about.
Yeah, we'll talk about those things. And this, just so people know, this match comes from the Aichi Prefectural Gymnasium in the city of Nagoya. And have you ever been to Nagoya? I know you've been to Japan, Mark, but have you been to Nagoya?
I have been through Nagoya on the bullet train many a time, and I've never stopped there.
Well, as someone who's been there several times, someone who spent like an extended period of time doing their job training in the city of Nagoya, in the heart of the city, Nagoya, it's really not that exciting, to be honest with you. At least I don't feel like people in Nagoya who may or may not be listening to this, people who've been to Nagoya, who love Nagoya, who may or may not be listening to this, might be like saying, how dare you? But here's the thing. I've been to Tokyo. I've been to, Osaka. I've been to Hakata. I've been to Fukuoka. I've been to multiple Japanese cities. Nagoya is probably the low end of the spectrum for me, just because I don't think it's that exciting for a major city. It doesn't have the kind of the excitement of either Tokyo or Osaka. It's just there. You know what I mean? Like, I really can't really recommend going to Nagoya for anything outside of maybe some of the food there.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, when I go to Japan, basically my trips are a mix of wrestling and tourism, sightseeing, and it just never really stuck out compared to a lot of the other cities I ended up visiting.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been to Nagoya, you're listening to this and you love it, that's awesome. Just for me, my own personal experiences, I did my training there. That might have colored it. I did not enjoy my training period for the job I had at the time in Nagoya, so there you go. Anyways, this is from Nagoya. It's a great wrestling city. I'll say that. The crowds are always great. And the crowd in this particular match is incredible, which we'll talk about, I suppose, during the course of the review of this match. But Mark, let's just start from the beginning of the video. We see the Untouchables come out to the unmistakable sounds of Misawa's theme song, Spartan X, and they're wearing very cool matching ring jackets.
Oh yeah, just the matching white ring jackets, which is a good way of tying them together, considering that especially the big teams, really, for All Japan, never really wore matching gear because they had their own specific colors. So you've got the white jackets, and you've got Misawa in his green and white trunks, and then you've got Ogawa in his lovely zebra skin shorts,
which, by the way, he still wears to this day in 2021. He's never changed. Like, he might have a variation of the zebra pattern on his shorts. Like, he's wearing kind of like longer shorts, like biker shorts, right? And he's either wearing like all zebra skin, or he's wearing like, two-tone, right? It's either black with like the back is black, but the front part of his shorts is like the zebra print. And I just at first, when I first saw Ogawa, I was like, I didn't have the greatest impression of him, but as the years went by, I've gained a very, very deep appreciation for Yoshinari Ogawa. He's an amazing wrestler, for one thing, but the other thing is, like, you know what? He makes that work for himself, and that's all you can ask for in anybody who is in wrestling with unique gear.
He stands out for multiple reasons in this match, with his gear, with his size, with the fact that his striking is not as impactful as the others. And that's actually what helps make this match, is that it adds a whole new dynamic to, say, a match against the Holy Demon Army, where you've got a bit more even keel.
Well, you talked about this idea of like people not having matching gear in the tag division in Japan in general, but like particularly in All Japan. But one thing that is interesting is that the team of No Fear, pretty much has matching gear in the sense like they just wear all black, and I think there's a deliberate attempt not to change the colors of either Takayama or Omori. But the other thing what I like about Burning, besides like Akiyama and Kobashi are just an amazing combination together, is that, without changing their respective, gear, that they have the closest kind of the cut of their gear is the same. They both wear trunks, but they also have similar piping to their boots, and they wear a similar style of knee pads and things like that, where like it almost seems like they're wearing matching gear but retaining their individuality, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like, like the Midnight Express have like Bobby Eaton wears long tights, and like whoever Stan Lane or Dennis Connery wears like trunks, but there's still kind of matching enough where it's like, oh, okay, like they're part of the same team. I feel that way about Burning.
And plus, you've got, I noticed on the ring jacket of 1 Seconds, towards the end of the match, you've got that lovely Burning logo with the circle around it, which is half blue, half orange. That's
right. The colors of Akiyama and Kenta Kobashi there. But, what's interesting? Let's get into the match. Like, before I'm going to let you lead the review, but for the most part, like what I want to say is like, I really noticed that this Nagoya audience, the fans in Aichi, they love Yoshinari Ogawa, and I don't know why. He's really popular in this match in Nagoya, but he's not from Aichi. He's from the Ibaraki prefecture, which is like more like northeast part of Japan, which is, it's like north of Tokyo, so it's kind of far away from Aichi prefecture, from the city of Nagoya. So I'm just trying to figure out, what is it about Yoshinari Ogawa that he's so popular during this match? I gotta think it has to do with the push he's been getting, becoming Misawa's partner and being able to showcase on a wider platform his prowess, his technical skills as a wrestler.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's a big bit that, maybe a little bit of the long-serving wrestler finally getting a big opportunity. I mean, for his career, and he'd been wrestling since 1985, so he's about 14 years in at this point. And he's literally, his only foray into the heavyweights was, I think, one Champions Carnival full appearance in 1992, where he won one whole match. So it was like maybe they feel that finally he's getting some recognition.
Yeah, that could be it. Like, you also have to remember, like, if you're not in the main event mix in All Japan, you're not likely to get too much TV time, because like for the most part, the All Japan television show was a clip show. Like, so they would show like the highlights from various like undercard matches and maybe like portions of, you would be joined in progress for like a title match. Like, it wasn't that common that you would see an entire card. So like people like junior heavyweights wouldn't really get that much of a shine on television. So like only the most hardcore fans would probably have seen a lot of Yoshinari Ogawa if they go to a lot of the go to see the house shows essentially during the tours and stuff like that. So the fact that he's getting like the spotlight as Misawa's partner is great for him. And I think really good for the undercard of the roster this time, because they're like thinking, hey, I might have a chance to like kind of break out and become more recognizable to the fan base, the general fan base out there. So I thought it was really cool. It's a really cool point about this match that, doesn't really affect the outcome of the match or anything like that, but I just think it adds atmosphere to the overall feel of this match for Ogawa.
Yeah, I think another aspect, because this is the second match between these two teams. They'd had another title match in March of the same year, and Ogawa basically did a very valiant and that match was lost by Misawa Ogawa. And Ogawa did a very valiant attempt at trying to win the match against Akiyama, just constantly fighting, but ended up failing. So I wonder if the fans also are bearing in mind that, hold on, he might have lost last time, but he played his heart out, and let's get behind the guy.
That is entirely possible. So before I let you carry off with the match review here, Mark, let me just say that, make one final point of that is, our ref for this match is the legendary Kyo Iwata.
And don't the fans tell you that?
They do. They, as soon as his name is announced, they like to shout out his first name, Kyohei. So there you go. He is in 2021 still the main ref to varying degrees of success. It pains me to say this, Mark. I'm not a huge fan of Kyo Iwata in the last 3-4 years of his referee career, just because I do think he's made it more about himself, unfortunately, than he does making it about the match itself. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about this match. Let's go ahead.
Okay, then. So start the match, we've got Ogawa and Akiyama facing off, and Ogawa immediately starts an arm wringer exchange with Akiyama, and this whole opening sequence is just about Ogawa proving that he's a little bit quicker, but more importantly, a little bit smarter than Akiyama, as he's constantly trying to outthink Akiyama. There's a great spot where, after doing quite well with some mat holds, basically Ogawa grabs Akiyama in a hammerlock and throws him straight into a Misawa forearm to try and steal a quick pin. Yeah,
I like that particular sequence because it's kind of a prelude to some of the really excellent teamwork we're going to see from both teams, but in particular from the Untouchables.
Oh yeah, the Untouchables teamwork. Yeah, we'll definitely be mentioning that later. So after that, we get another arm wringer sequence, and Ogawa basically seems to be doing quite well with the holds, but and this is a theme of the match, Akiyama quite quickly overpowers him with a strike, and then that gives Akiyama the opportunity to tag out Kobashi. Into Kobashi.
One thing I want to kind of point out is that Ogawa at this point in time on the All Japan roster is probably the most sound technician, in the company. And I think, just because I think he's always been interested in mat wrestling, but also because all the experience he's had in the junior division, wrestling people in the early part of the decade, he'd be wrestling people like Dean Malenko, Joe Malenko. He'd be wrestling Dan Crawford and a whole bunch of other people, as well as Masanobu Fuchi and Tsuyoshi Kikuchi as well. But I think his technical skills help him establish a foothold in matches against guys who are relatively bigger than him, like Kobashi and Akiyama. And it lends a credibility to him being in the ring with these guys as a junior heavyweight.
Oh yeah, definitely. Not just the size, but the technical aspect adds a lovely little dynamic into this. So at this point, Kobashi's tagged in, and Ogawa basically tags in Misawa, who wants to tag in. And we just get a moment as Kobashi and Misawa just slowly circle each other and let the crowd soak it in, let the tension build up, let things go before they go into that first lockup.
It's very reminiscent of a lot of the interactions like Misawa would have with Toshiaki Kawada. And, like the thing is I think deliberately so, like Misawa wanted to focus more on getting, Kobashi to a level to surpass Kawada for personal reasons, I believe, as well as professional ones. But, like he wants to have a rivalry that has the same level of intensity and same level of recognition, I think, that he had with Kawada.
Oh yeah. And it's clear by the end of this match that was one of the goals of this match. So they finally lock up, and Kobashi starts throwing a couple of chops, which Misawa takes, and then Kobashi throws a couple more, and then Misawa takes over, throws some forearms, and then Misawa hits a drop kick that sends Kobashi out to the outside. So Misawa goes, looks for his infamous elbow suicida, but Kobashi moves. So, and this is a sign of Misawa's athleticism, even at this point of his career, where he manages to flip over the ropes and land on his feet. And then in the background, you can see Jun Akiyama just staring and waiting. And as soon as Misawa lands on the apron, Akiyama runs in and just clatters Misawa in the back with a running knee.
Oh, it's beautiful. You just this is something that Misawa does all the time. He does the flip over the top rope. He's holding onto the ropes. He lands on his feet, as you said. He's gonna hit somebody with his probably a flying elbow or maybe even a drop kick. But Akiyama's been on the receiving end of this. He's seen it so many times. He's been Misawa's partner. He knows what's happening. He's waiting for him, and he clatters him, as you say. My first time hearing that word, I love it. And what I would like to say, he fucking clobbers him with that fucking knee and sends him flying into the guardrail. It's beautiful. Just some great, great wrestling. Psychology is off the charts, even early in this match.
Oh yeah. The crowd just react to this, and it's great because it basically says that Akiyama realize Akiyama and Kobashi, they know Misawa. They know you've got to take every shortcut you can because Misawa's at a level where he's essentially above everyone else almost to varying degrees. So it's a case of, if we have an opportunity, we are taking it. And Kobashi really takes it as he just throws Misawa repeatedly into the guardrails here.
Yeah, and that's, you see that a lot in this match. A lot of stuff happening in the guardrails. People being sent into them, a lot of fighting on the around the ring. Thankfully, they don't spend too long a period, but they go out there enough times where I'm just I notice that about the match, and I'm just I'm not a huge fan of fighting on the outside. That's just my thing.
Yeah, it's they do this 3 times, and this is a great match, but you can also see where you could argue bad habits are starting to creep into the All Japan style.
Yeah, at some point they do stop with the guardrails and they go back in the ring. And I have to note here, Mark, that the Birding do some really cool double teams on Misawa, including this really interesting attempt at an assisted powerbomb. But, Misawa being Misawa, he counters with a double head scissors combination and fires back on both Birding members with a series of elbows to their faces.
Yeah, and those are some really hard elbows. And And while this is going on, Ogawa basically decides, hold on, this is unfair 2-1. So literally just comes in and backdrops Akiyama.
Yeah, I think something he picked up when he was in Sarutogan, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Definitely Ogawa loves a backdrop, as we'll see in this match. So Misawa basically kicks Kobashi out of the ring with a drop kick, with a low drop kick, and finally hits that elbow suicida before basically paying Kobashi back by throwing him around the guardrails. And in a brilliant spot that I'd never seen before, Kobashi reverses the Irish whip and sends Misawa in. And Ogawa basically grabs Misawa's arm and they do a do-si-do, reversing Misawa, who comes flying back at Kobashi and nails him with a big forearm.
Yeah, again, another great example of like the tag team chemistry between Ogawa and Misawa. Can I just say, Mark, like I'm like you and I have not shared match notes, right? We've shared like background notes, which you're gonna get into. But one thing I find great amusement is like how much of the same like terms and points were like your notes match with mine, because I also use the term do-si-do. in my notes, and we did not share this, just so people know.
We did not at all.
No, so it's really great. So anyways, yeah, that's a really great example of like some just amazing chemistry between I've said in the Kobashi episode, like I think Misawa's greatest team is my favorite team of Misawa is with Ogawa. Like, and he was teaming with Kawada, he was teaming with Kobashi, but I really love his team with Ogawa, because it's just such a fun team to watch, like with the kind of chemistry they have and like the innovative tag team moves that they do with one another.
And yeah, there's definitely something that I'll come on to in a minute with the chemistry between the two. And just it's a different dynamic that you get to other Misawa and Misawa teams. So Kobashi is thrown back into the ring, and Ogawa basically decides, what can I do to this guy who's much bigger and stronger than me, and just repeatedly double stomps Kobashi in the stomach. Kobashi basically goes to fight back with chops, and this is a great strike exchange because Ogawa's constantly ducking, he's dodging, he's trying to avoid getting hit with these chops, and then he finally wins it with, I believe, an eye poke and a jawbreaker.
I made a point of noting that, you know, like Ogawa, he's working over Kobashi with what I call like his trademark Western stomping punches, like where he's punching a guy, but he's stomping his foot. And I gotta think Ogawa has to be the lightest worker in the company at this time. Like, I bet you he's not even touching anybody with these punches. Like, his punches are very reminiscent of, I feel, Bret Hart's.
Yeah. Oh, they're not even like closed fist punches. They're essentially open hand punches, and it's definitely a very striking to see how there's a pun there, and I did not intend that, to see how these, as you say, these stomping light open hand punches compared to the big forearms and the big chops. So Ogawa then basically tags in Misawa, who uses his iconic jumping kicks and then basically lands a senton to Kobashi for a 2 count. And then we get a chin lock from Misawa. And you've made this point on other podcasts, and I want to make it again. The way they work this, the chin lock, the movement, Kobashi's movement, the mannerisms, they're telling a story here. This is not I am resting. This is I am trying to use this move to win or to weaken my opponent.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta keep in mind, like a lot of times the way Misawa wins his matches, especially with people lower than him on the roster, is with probably an elbow to the face. So, you know, his face lock or the chin lock, whatever you want to call it, is designed to weaken that part of the body to make it more susceptible for, you know, the force of his elbow to knock them out in the match. And so it's really great psychology, like that you don't appreciate really. I think if you come into a match cold, into a Misawa match cold and you see this, you probably think, oh, it's his version of Randy Orton's fucking chin lock or something, but it's not. There's actually a psychological point to it in terms of like him using it tactically, strategically to wear down his opponent for something he's going to do later on in the match to probably finish the match.
Oh yeah, and after Kobashi gets to the rope after this chin lock, he tags in Ogawa, and Ogawa hits. And I love the way he applies his sleeper, where he literally just spins around and jumps onto Kobashi's back. And the size difference is so much that Ogawa's hanging from Kobashi's back. His feet aren't touching the ground. And Misawa has to come in and kick Kobashi in the gut just to let Ogawa get his feet back on the mat.
I think it's kind of more effective if he's like, if, you know, Kobashi is carrying the entirety of Ogawa on his back, like, and adds to the kind of the effect of the sleeper hold. But yeah, I mean, there is something to be said of like, okay, you know, Ogawa is much smaller than Kenta Kobashi. So, you know, Mitsuharu Misawa has to come in to kind of even the odds here.
And that becomes a theme of the early going of this match, is how Misawa is constantly helping out Ogawa at various stages, and almost acting like a bigger brother, as it were.
I think that probably maybe mirrors the relationship they probably had backstage. I think Misawa, if you look at his booking patterns with Ogawa, especially in Noah, there is definitely like some kind of fondness he has for Yoshinari Ogawa that carries over to like him pick. I would assume at this point he gets to pick who his tag team partner is, and I'm pretty sure he had picked Ogawa to be okay. Like, because Bob was kind of like getting out of it because of his own health issues. Like he's not booking so much. So Misawa is taking more of the booking over in All Japan, and so like I'm sure like, okay, I need a new tag team partner. It's gonna be Ogawa. He's gonna be my guy.
Oh, yeah. So after this sleeper hold, Kobashi escapes fairly easily, and in a small theme of the match, basically just simply shoulder tackles Ogawa to wipe Ogawa out and get the opportunity to tag in Akiyama.
I think, you know, at this point, this is the point where he hits him with this really beautiful jumping knee, right?
Oh, yeah, Akiyama tags in and just completely ups the pace of the match with these lovely jumping knees. And then he attacks Misawa on the apron and then goes back to Ogawa. And I just love that Akiyama coming in has just completely changed the pace for this brief second before Akiyama basically then starts to wear down Ogawa with it was a sleeper to start with, and which then moved into a front chancery.
One thing I want to say about, you know, Akiyama's jumping knee, I for my money, I think it's maybe the best jumping knee in the history of professional wrestling. It's up there with Jumbo Tsuruda's, and I think it's better than Harley Race's, and definitely better than that one used by one Triple H.
Oh yeah, it's got really good form, but it has a sense of momentum to it. He's coming in at such a speed, the height, the feeling of impact. It really does look like a nasty move to take.
Yeah. Also, at this point, this is where, you know, Mitsuo Momota on commentary, he mentions that, you know, not only are the Untouchables the current tag team champions, but, you know, Misawa is the current Triple Crown champion. This is his fifth and last reign. And of course, like as we mentioned before, Ogawa is the current junior heavyweight champion of the company as well.
Oh, yeah. So it's a team of champions who are the champions against two young guys who, in Kobashi, has been the Triple Crown champion, and in Akiyama is someone who feels almost on the cusp of being at that level, if not quite there. So coming back to the match, after working over Ogawa with this front chancery, Ogawa gets the opportunity to tag out, and Misawa just unloads on Akiyama with forearms. At the beginning, Akiyama seems on an even keel, so they're quite balanced. It's they're both exchanging it, and then just Misawa just takes over as the weight of Misawa's forearms is just too much for Akiyama. And then after that, sorry, I'm just trying to find where I'm on my notes here. And after that, Misawa applies his legendary face lock, and I love how Akiyama is clawing away. He's trying to grab the hair. He's trying to escape the hold, but Misawa knows how to apply this hold so well that Kobashi has to come in with a chop to save Akiyama.
Yeah, chop to the back of Misawa's neck, which that's gotta suck to take that.
Oh yeah, and also softening up the neck for later on, which definitely becomes a target.
Definitely.
So Ogawa tugs in, and this comes back to. Apologies, I'm just trying to find. Yeah, Ogawa tags in, and after using his stomp punches, as you call them, basically applies a Misawa face lock of his own, which is this brilliant kind of, as I say, little brother, like, look at me, I'm doing what you can do. And the way Akiyama is in this hold is great because it's mirroring the kind of stuff that he was using when Misawa had the hold applied. And then because Ogawa isn't Misawa, Akiyama escapes quite easily by just kicking Ogawa in the face.
Yeah, it's a great fun to see Ogawa like, hey, I'm with the biggest star in the company. I'm with the ace of the company, so I'm going to use a lot of his moves, and including the face lock. But we'll get to it later. But he ends up using another one of Misawa's trademark moves as well later in the match. I like then from this point on, like, Akiyama kicks Ogawa's face to get out of the move, and then now it's Burning's here. Like, for the most part, the Untouchables have pretty much dominated the match, I feel, Mark. But now it's time for the Burning to get the fucking heat on Rat Boy. And by the way, when I say Rat Boy, that's his nickname. That's his literal fucking nickname, Yoshinari Ogawa, because, like, it has nothing to do with him being promiscuous or anything like that. Okay, it has everything to do with, like, he's sneaky and he's very cunning. That's why they call him Rat Boy. Also has something to do with his facial features, but that could just be my own interpretation of that, and I might be being really unfair, but I'm just saying that's all.
I definitely remember that moniker from the days when I was on Noah message boards. So Burning take over, and they've got a very interesting double team, which is a Manhattan drop from Akiyama that's led straight into a big chop from Kobashi. Kobashi then hits this lovely stalling suplex, and then he follows it up with a Boston Crab. And Akiyama decides, I'm going to help out with this, and basically does a knee drop to the back of Ogawa's head while Ogawa is in this hold. And the Nagoya crowd do not like that.
No, this is really interesting. You would think that this is just, that there's no heels in this match per se, but this gets rather a negative reaction from the crowd that Akiyama, decides to just say, fuck you, Ogawa. And while he's in this rather painful looking Boston Crab from Kenta Kobashi, he decides to drop a knee to the back of Ogawa's head. And then, I think it's more that part, because then he does follow that up with blasting Misawa off the apron with an elbow strike. But I think it's more the, hurting poor Yoshinari Ogawa while he's in this Boston Crab that really kind of raises the ire of the Nagoya crowd.
I think it's that kind of feeling that it's a bit of unsportsmanship, and definitely having seen the March match between these two teams, there were about 4 times in that match where both teams got booed just for doing things with the feeling that it was just unsportsmanlike. So it's that kind of sense of fair play. Well, I don't care if you smash someone that can see you coming. Don't do it to a guy that can't do anything to stop you.
Can you imagine if they saw like something from, these days, like someone lighting their kick pad on fire and kicking someone in the head? What would they do then? What would their reaction be to that? One wonders.
imagine putting an evil 30-minute title match in front of this crowd. I'm imagining an evil title match, and I want to wipe that from my brain.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, to help do that, Ogawa's in the Boston Crab, and Ogawa gets a massive reaction as he actually manages to push up, and you get the feeling that maybe he's strong enough to reach the ropes, but no, he's not got the strength, and Misawa has to make the save with an elbow to break up the move. And then coming back at this point, apologies for that. I've literally lost my place in the notes, and I'll try not to.
I think one thing I have in my notes is that there's this great double team move where, like Akiyama grabs Ogawa by the legs and he launches Ogawa into the corner where Kenta Kobashi is. And Kenta Kobashi is just waiting there. All he does is just chop Yoshinari Ogawa in the face with one of his trademark moves. And I love stuff like this. I like Kenta Kobashi chopping someone, not in their chest, not in their throat, but in their face. I think it's just great stuff when I get to see stuff like that.
Oh yeah. And before that, Ogawa had tagged back in and just going to town on the lower back of Ogawa with these elbows, just kind of follow up on the story that they were working over the back with the Boston Crab and now the elbows. Ogawa tried to get a hope spot with a lovely looking sunset flip, which didn't even get a 1 count. And this is a lovely touch, is as soon as he kicks out, Akiyama already has hold of Ogawa's ankle. So Ogawa can't go anywhere. It's just that lovely little touch of, nope, you're stuck here with me.
Oh, because he knows you give Ogawa space, Ogawa's going to tie you up with his wrestling, and he does not need to be going through that again. Or he's gonna get punched in the face with the lightest punches in all Japan for wrestling. But he does have to sell it because he is a pro. But you know what I mean. But yeah, it's smart. I noticed that detail too, and I was just like, that Akiyama, he's a smart motherfucker.
Oh god, yeah. So after the catapult chop, Akiyama hits his Blue Thunder bomb, and Misawa is concerned enough to break it up with an elbow, which leads to Kobashi throwing Misawa out of the ring, and Akiyama calls for his exploder. The crowd just lose themselves here. It's like, oh my God, is this it? And Ogawa, smart man that he is, basically throws himself out the outside to just escape this move.
Definitely. Really smart move. Really smart move. And Ogawa, like everyone else in All Japan, they know, if Akiyama hits you with that exploder, and I'm just talking about the regular exploder, not the wrist clutch one that's going to drop you on your head. If he hits you with that exploder, the tide is going to change, probably for the better for Akiyama. You're probably unlikely to get the advantage over Akiyama if he hits that move on you.
Oh yeah. So Kobashi's quite quick at throwing Ogawa back in, which gets a 2 count. And then Kobashi himself tags in with a pair of running knees to the gut before a tidy-looking Russian leg sweep for a 2 count. Kobashi follows that up with a pump handle power bomb, and yet again Misawa is there to make the save. Misawa basically, and this is a touch, so Burning have dominated Ogawa for quite a while at this point, and so after breaking up this move, it's like Misawa's had enough of waiting for Ogawa to actually turn the tide, so just does it himself by smashing Kobashi with an elbow strike and then getting to the apron, and Ogawa basically tags in. So Misawa has essentially done his own work for him to get this hot tag. At this point, Misawa's tagged in, and he jumps off the top rope with a diving elbow to take out Kobashi. Akiyama tries to come in, and Misawa basically takes Akiyama out and then follows it up with that trademark spinning clothesline from Misawa to Kobashi.
Yeah, the where he flies through the air. It's a great move. Great move that I like to use when I'm playing Misawa in virtual pro wrestling.
It's the kind of move you see it for the first time and it just sticks out as, well, that's something different.
I never thought it has that much impact in my opinion, but I think it just looks so dynamic because he does do that spin. Like it just goes to show how athletic he is, even when he's like bigger. Like, you know, he's gained a lot of weight because of all the injuries he has and he can't work out, but he's just able to still kind of fly when he needs to in big matches. And it's pretty impressive. Like, that's one thing you got to give to Misawa. Like, even when he's not so athletic looking, he still remains like pretty athletic. He still maintains his athleticism to where he can still do a lot of his trademark moves.
Oh yeah. And he does quite a bit of flying in this match. So, Kobashi tries to fight Misawa off with a chop at one point, which Misawa manages to block, and then Misawa hits the Tiger Driver, and now in comes Akiyama to break that up. Misawa doesn't like Akiyama breaking that up by basically getting rid of Akiyama again, and goes up top for a frog splash, which gets another 2 count. And then at this point, Misawa goes for runs to the corner and tries to hit this rebound elbow. And Kobashi, who's seen this so many times before, slickly reverses it into a sleeper hold. And then after a couple of seconds, hits one hell of a sleeper suplex.
Yeah, this, like, literally, if you just watch it, if you pause it, and then just go kind of like just, you know, like while it's paused, go through it. He does really literally drop Misawa on his fucking head. And it's pretty amazing, yet also kind of scary considering, you know, all the accumulated damage that Misawa endures during this time period. That, wow, you didn't really have to do that, dude. But God bless you, because like it makes that match that move particular look really fucking great. I gotta say that. That's all.
Oh yeah. As scary as it is, it looks great, and it's perfect because this is essentially the turning point. So Burning had control. Misawa was almost single-handedly turning the tide, and Kobashi just put a stop to it with that big move. So Kobashi gets a little bit of breathing space, tags in Akiyama, and Akiyama sees an opportunity, and he is not letting this opportunity go. He just goes full speed with 2 of those beautiful jumping knees, hits a double arm DDT, kind of reminiscent of how Kobashi used to use that move back in the early 90s, and then hits this rather unorthodox, but I love this diving jumping elbow off the top rope to the back of Misawa's head, which just crumples Misawa to the mat for a 2.5 count.
One thing I like about this particular elbow is that it's done like a forearm smash, right? This is the elbow that you know Akiyama pretty much lifts from Misawa, but he jumps off the top rope, and his timing is so perfect because he's cocking that thing in midair, right? And then as he's about to hit Misawa, he fucking brings it forward with such force that you think he's going to decapitate Misawa. Thankfully, he does not. But my God, it's so impressive looking. And if you think about it, if you really like take a moment to analyze in your mind, okay, what does he have to do? He has to climb up the top rope. He has to jump off the top rope. He has to like start moving that elbow back, and he has to bring it forward just as precisely as he's going to make contact with Misawa with his body, so it looks amazing. And he does all those things in like the 2-3 seconds that the sequence, you know, takes place in.
When you break it down like that, it just makes it even more impressive because this is just beautiful brutality. And so Misawa, as I say, kicked out of that move, and Akiyama goes for an exploder, but Misawa's just strong enough to essentially throw him off with an arm drag, and Akiyama, who's much fresher, runs the ropes to try and follow up. But Ogawa, the sneaky man that he is, throws this knee to the back just as Akiyama hits the ropes. And Akiyama stumbles just enough to let Misawa clock him with the elbow. And that was the first time, I think, that Ogawa had actually saved Misawa instead of the other way around.
It doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's pretty impressive. And I think this is probably the match to do something like that kind of a spot with showcasing Ogawa, because this crowd loves them some Yoshinari Ogawa, as we've said before. But we got to really say at this point in the match, Mark, like we're pretty much hitting the crescendo, of this match, because this crowd, every time there's an attempt for a pin and there's a kick out, this crowd is going crazy.
Oh, they're so hot for this match. I watched this a couple of times to do notes, and definitely it kind of shocked me the last time I listened to it, just how hot they are for all of these near falls. So Misawa tags into Ogawa, who unloads with a neck breaker to Akiyama. Kobashi tries to come in and is got rid of with an Ogawa enziguri. And then there's this lovely little moment where Ogawa runs the ropes at breakneck speed and kind of outfoxes Akiyama and hits this nice looking DDT. And following that up, Ogawa comes back to his trusty backdrop suplex, and Kobashi basically makes a save for Akiyama by breaking up the pinfall.
Yeah, from this point, there's this amazing double team sequence from the Untouchables to Akiyama. They're just getting the heat on him, which basically culminates in Ogawa taking Akiyama down with a drop toe hold, and then Misawa leaps over Ogawa to nail Akiyama in the back of the head with a flying elbow. And this is something that they do a lot in their tag team matches, Ogawa and Misawa, but I love it every time I've seen it. And I'm just surprised more teams. I'm pretty sure there's been some tag teams since in America or Japan that have stolen this move, but it's such a beautiful yet simple and elegant move.
It's so simple, yet it's just fantastic. And the size difference as well, with the smaller guy taking down Akiyama and then Misawa bringing all of that size and power in with that elbow. As I say, it's simple, but it looks so dynamic. And they follow this up with a couple of bits and then some corner attacks. And then Misawa hits a German suplex and then rolls Akiyama through straight into a bridging backdrop suplex by Ogawa in another lovely double team, which you feel might be it, but Kobashi's in there to push Ogawa's legs and break up the bridge.
Well, I mean, the bridge is very reminiscent of Jumbo Tsuruta. So, and of course, Kobashi, being familiar with Jumbo Tsuruta and that, backdrop suplex with a bridge, knows, oh my God, I got to break that up. That's something Akiyama's going to kick out of. So he wisely knows from his own experiences taking that move from Jumbo Tsuruta, hey, I better save my team's chances in this match by breaking that move up.
Oh, yeah. And so following it up, Ogawa, you referenced this earlier, Ogawa hits a tiger driver of his own, and the crowd love this, but Akiyama just manages to kick out because, of course, Ogawa can hit the move, but he can't hit it as well as Misawa. And then Ogawa goes for one of his trademark sequences, which is very much not the kind of sequence you think of when you think of All Japan, which is this eye poke, jawbreaker, and then figure four bridging pin for another big near fall.
Can I just say, I love this move, the jawbreaker into the figure four bridging pin. I love playing Ogawa or using a creator wrestler and using this move as one of my finishers in virtual pro wrestling too. I love this move. It's interesting to see kind of the rise of kind of this more technical wrestler in the mid card of All Japan, not only with Yoshinari Ogawa, but with Johnny Smith as well, who had different yet similar style of wrestling that he brought into All Japan at this time.
Oh, yeah. So Ogawa is basically looking to capitalize on this, but Akiyama, he's in dire straits. He's in trouble, manages to hit the exploder finally on Ogawa and buys himself time. And now here comes Misawa, here comes Kobashi. It feels like fate.
It is. It's a fateful, gonna be a fateful moment for Misawa soon.
Yes, it will. So Misawa's the first one to get, and he's actually controls this essentially quite quickly. So he hits the Tiger Driver and manages to get a near fall on that. And then he follows up with a lovely diving neckbreaker drop. And Kobashi is brilliant here in how he sets up for the move, because he gives Misawa enough time, but he's only looking at Misawa for a very brief second before Misawa hits that move. So you don't get that kind of, I am standing here waiting for you to be in position to hit me element that you sadly get in so much wrestling.
I feel like these two have so much experience with one another that they can wrestle each other with their eyes closed. And this goes for any combination of the pillars wrestling each other, whether it's Kawada, Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi, Taue, Misawa, whatever, that, they're not choreographing these things. You know what I mean? This is, I think, not to get on an old timer rant or anything like this, but this is something I think is lost in wrestling in a lot in 2021, is that a lot of stuff is choreographed or planned out beforehand, and that's fine in itself. But when you get to a point where people are waiting for moves to happen, waiting to take a move, it takes you out of the match as a fan. It does. I don't care who you are. You could be fucking Will Ospreay and fucking Ricochet, or you could be some schmuck on the indies, another schmuck on the indies, oh, let's do this 450 Dragon Rana off the top of a cage, but you got to make sure you're standing there waiting for me while I go prepare this move. Okay, I'll do that for you. And no, fuck off. You look like fucking idiots. But these guys, they know each other so well. Like you're saying, the way Kobashi sets up the move, he doesn't look like he's setting up the move. You have to really pay attention, and it's only the subtlest signs that you've noticed, Mark, right? It's not oh, he's waiting to take the move. Oh, he did this. This might be indicating that he's ready. He's setting himself up, but maybe he's not. Who knows? It's that ambiguity that I think is missing from a lot of wrestling today.
Yeah. So Misawa follows that neckbreaker drop up with a tiger suplex, which gets another big near fall. And at this point, Kobashi's in big trouble. So Misawa goes for the Emerald Frozen, which is his latest big move. I think it was only a year or two before the move had been introduced, I think so. At this point, all these guys, all the pillars are just introducing new finishers, the Emerald Flosion, by accident, Kawada creates the Kenzo Bomb. And I can't really recall what Taue invented, maybe, but was it the Origo Taue at this point?
Oh, might have been. That might have been it. I can't exactly remember. When we do the Taue, biography episode, Mark, just listen for that. I'm sure we'll have a clarification on that point. But we're going to talk about what Kobashi has invented recently, and you're going to get to that point.
Yeah, we'll get there. So Kobashi escapes the Emerald Frozen and hits a desperate chop to the neck, followed by a spinning chop to the face, and then hits a quite nasty release German suplex, which Misawa manages to shrug off. He's feeling it. He manages to shrug it off. And nope, Kobashi basically says, I'm not having that, and hits a half Nelson suplex. And all of the nasty big moves in the match at this point, they've all been on Misawa.
Well, I mean, he's the one who's going to get the heat put on him in terms of the closing stretches of matches, because that's his thing. That's why he's the ace, right?
Oh yeah. So Akiyama smells blood just as Kobashi does and basically says, let's do this. And they do a super power bomb. And my God, this super power bomb, it's like you see a super power bomb and you're used to guys going out away towards the center of the ring. Nope. Misawa isn't even on Akiyama's shoulders properly. They just drop him straight down.
Oh, I mean, I think it looks way more painful. Just go straight down.
It looked like it sucked. It really did.
Because he doesn't bump. Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't like bounce or bump or anything. Like, he just hits the mat with a thud.
I know which super bomb I will prefer to take, and it's not that one.
No, definitely not.
And this is a great storytelling touch for me. So you've got Akiyama and Kobashi there, and Ogawa comes in, and he realizes that Misawa's in trouble. So his first instinct is to hit Kobashi with this backdrop suplex, and he knows it's not going to turn the tide, but he's hoping that little bit of time that Kobashi needs to take to recover will give Misawa time to recover.
Oh, definitely. Because like even though it's Akiyama who hits the move, Kobashi's the legal man. Like Akiyama's not going to do anything to win the match after this move. It has to be Kobashi. So like wisely, like, you know, Ogawa's like, oh, I got to stop this pin from happening. Okay, he doesn't see me, so I'm going to hit Kobashi from the back with a backdrop suplex, and it works because like he can't cover him, so Misawa has time to recover. So
Misawa and Kobashi finally get back to their feet, and they're just trading big strikes. Kobashi manages to dodge the rolling elbow, and he just wails Misawa with this big, beautiful lariat, which gets a big near fall to a massive pop from the crowd.
Yeah, we're definitely in the point where like the crowd is just like, you know, they're cheering, they're clapping, they're like stomping their feet on the floor. Just my perfect storm of a Japanese wrestling match.
Oh yeah, they know, everyone knows that the end is not far. Yeah, Kobashi hits another big standing lariat. His traditional style lariat, and just stacks Misawa up with the cover, and in comes Ogawa to make the save at the last second. And this is a great touch, which comes back to Ogawa's size, is that how do Akiyama and Kobashi get rid of Ogawa? And it's just a simple double shoulder tackle. Ogawa comes out and is out the way, and Akiyama is just watching Ogawa, and Kobashi feels it. So Akiyama hits this running knee, Kobashi hits the lariat, and then Kobashi goes in for the kill.
Yep. So he picks up Misawa in a backbreaker, as it were, but it's not a backbreaker, Mark, because what does he end up hitting but
the burning hammer?
The burning hammer. For those of you who don't know what the burning hammer is, basically, you know, Kobashi picks up a guy in a backbreaker move. He's like facing upwards, his opponent.
It's essentially a torture rack.
A torture rack.
The Argentine backbreaker, yeah.
That's correct. It's a torture rack, but instead of trying to get a submission, it's just a setup, Mark. It's a setup to drop someone on their head. So basically, he turns a torture rack into a Death Valley driver, but the opponent is not facing down. They're facing up, so it looks actually more painful. And the way he hits this burning hammer, I thought he killed Misawa. I really did, because I thought, oh my God, he just like crumpled him into the mat with his head and neck. Oh, thank God he's still alive.
Oh yeah, the way he hits this move, it is not a move that should be kicked out of. It is not a move that you should use a lot. This is a case of Kobashi realizing, I need to put Misawa away. What will put him away? And it does. This burning hammer earns Kobashi the 1-2-3. Burning win the match, and for the first time in Kobashi's career, he has pinned Misawa in a title match.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably pinned Misawa in other matches, but this is the first time he's done it for an actual title, not the Triple Crown, but for the World Tag Team titles. But you got to keep in mind, like in all Japan, like the World Tag Team titles are a huge, huge deal as well. Not as huge, of course, as the being the Triple Crown champion, but it's like it's a good second place to be in if you're in the company.
Oh yeah, I want to bring this up in a little bit, just how big the tag titles mean, and the crowd. So the crowd have actually been very even. They've been supporting all four guys throughout the match, but you get this lovely big Kobashi chant there, who really recognise sort of that Kobashi has done an achievement in managing to pin Misawa here.
But also, you got to think that the crowd was super hyped and super appreciative of getting to see the Burning Hammer live.
Oh God, yeah, it's because he must have only hit this one, maybe two times more before this point, because this wasn't the first one. But I mean, Kobashi only hit it 7 times, and I know he did it at least a couple of times in Noah. So this must have been what, number 2, number 3.
Maybe like I didn't count them, but like it's a super finisher, right? Like he's not busting this out like for everyone. He's busting it out for Misawa. He's gonna bust it out maybe for Kawada, like or someone huge in like his later career in Noah. But most of his finishes are with a lariat. That's his and I hopefully not with the moonsault anymore. But like the lariat is basically I'm wrestling fucking. I don't know. I'm wrestling fucking Takao Mori. I'll hit him with a lariat to finish him off. Okay. Yeah. I'm wrestling Masahiro Kakihara. He's not getting a burning hammer. He's not even getting a moonsault. He's getting the lariat. But hey, you see the size of Kobashi's arms? That lariat is good enough.
That is a damn fine lariat, to be fair.
I mean, he doesn't even need to like hit the ropes. He just it's a short range lariat. He just puts all his weight behind that fucking thing, and it's gonna take your head off. Like it's up there with Hansen's. It's up there with Keisuke Sasaki's. Like I think personally, it's the second greatest lariat of all time after Stan Hansen's.
Yeah, it is definitely a top tier lariat. And yeah, coming very briefly, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but your point with the burning hammer, it's this kind of sense of this is a fantastically cool but dangerous move. I'm only using it when I really need to. This super finisher element, I think it's something that is kind of missed, and the nuance is missed because you had a lot of guys basically took the burning hammer and overused it. Dan Maff in Ring of Honor. And then you've got guys that basically use it but say, oh, we know it's unsafe, so I'm going to try and make it safe. And you get the absolute travesty that is Trent Seven's Burning Hammer, which looks absolutely terrible.
Well, I mean, everything about Trent Seven looks fucking terrible, from his like look to his gear to his wrestling moves. Like no, like these guys, Dan Maff, Trent Seven, they can go get fucked. Like they try to like they either like dilute it by using it too much, or they try to like dilute it by well, since I'm not actually skilled enough to hit this move like to someone without actually killing them, I'm just gonna make it look like a piece of shit. So go fuck yourselves.
If you want to hit that move or move like that and have something that's safe, steal Yoshihito Sasaki's Argentine Coaster, which is very similar and just looks a lot better and a lot safer.
Or just don't do it. Or just create your own move.
Just don't do it.
Or just create your own move. Don't stop stealing moves of people.
Unfortunately, just don't do it is basically my summary of a lot of Trent Seven's career. Here's a lovely little tip about the mindset of Trent Seven that I witnessed. I was at a British shoot style show, which the first British shoot style show was a production called Tetsujin that had maybe 15 fans in the crowd who didn't know how to react to a shoot style match. And after the end, a guy I was with was talking to one of the rookies that was setting up the ring, sort of pointing out, did you notice how the big moves felt bigger because they were spread out? There weren't a lot of bumps. And Trent Seven comes past, and his creative input was the show needed more kicks.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyways,
anyway, that's enough time spent on that man.
The Burning Hammer. I just want to say one point about the super finishers. You gotta keep in mind it's like 9 years of people kicking out of the Tiger Driver, people kicking out of like the folding power bomb, people kicking out of the lariat. Like that, these guys by necessity, like whether good or bad, by necessity, had to keep coming up with more dangerous looking moves. With Misawa, it was from the Tiger Driver to the Tiger Driver 91, which drops you on your head. I think it's probably the most dangerous of all these moves, like if you don't take it. But he didn't think that was enough. Later on, he creates the Emerald Flosion, which I don't think looks as dangerous as the Tiger Driver 91 because he's really in control. But like, hey, I'm all for like him being more in control of someone, like him controlling the fall of his opponent if it's safer. But Kobashi, the lariat is not enough anymore, right? For Misawa, Kawada, Taue, people like that. So, and I think he smartly wants to lessen his use of the moonsault. So he comes up with the Burning Hammer, which looks amazing. But like, if he does it right, like, and he's in control, like he's taking a lot of the brunt of that with his own body and protecting his opponent. But my God, does it look great?
Oh yeah, it looks fantastic. Definitely. One thing I hope you don't mind, you touched on it earlier, and I want to touch on it now. This was a great tag match, and one of the things that's crept in the last few years is people making comparisons between this era of All Japan and sort of the peak Bushiroad era of New Japan. And when you think about them making these comparisons, I think to me they're just comparing the main event singles division, because if you're comparing New Japan's tag division to classic All Japan's, I'm sorry, there's only one winner.
No, there has to be like there's no comparison of picking like overall. Like I will say in favor of Bushiroad's like presentation of New Japan in the time that they've owned the company up till like maybe last year, is that they're really good about creating new stars, and they've been really great at establishing great main event scenes. But in terms of like if you're just looking at the tag division, like I mean the junior division, as much fault as I can find with the New Japan Junior division, like when it comes to tournament time, my God, that thing is like the best Super Juniors is amazing, and it's a great division, and they produce some amazing matches, more than All Japan has ever done in their history, like under Baba especially. But if you look at how the tag division is used in All Japan versus in New Japan, there's no comparison. Like All Japan kills it. Like first of all, they don't like prostitute the belts to like prop up somebody. There's always a story. There's always a reason for someone becoming a tag team champion in the company, and it's always to create a new star. Like whereas in New Japan, the IWGP Tag Championship is basically just as hey, you guys don't have anything to do. Here, take these belts.
Yeah, the core of the difference is All Japan are not afraid to have their biggest stars and their biggest names in the tag team division. They're not afraid to, we won't have these guys defending the Triple Crown tonight. We'll defend the tag team titles instead, and it doesn't matter because they're going to put on a match that the crowd are going to go home perfectly happy with. They trust these guys to carry the division and to treat the tag division as well as they treat the singles division. And they do it. With New Japan, it's like, our top stars aren't in the tag division. It's like you don't see your Tanahashis and your Okadas and your Naitos in their peak in that division. So why should we care about this division? It's that differing philosophy. I was looking at the cage match ratings for All Japan, and 6 of the 10 highest rated matches for All Japan's history were all tag matches from the 90s. And the highest rated tag match for New Japan was 48th, which just shows it.
Well, I mean, traditionally, New Japan has had some great tag teams, but again, like their focus has always been as a singles company, like not as like to I suppose it's the kind of different philosophies of like Inoki and Baba. Baba has always been a traditional pro wrestling booker, right? So like to him, tag team titles are just as important in making stars as anything else in the company, and establishing like having something your top star can do while they're not the champion is make them the tag champion and have great matches with tag team titles. Whereas Inoki is very much from like, you know, he's a pro wrestler, but he's also like obsessed with MMA and he's obsessed with singles, you know, combat sports, you know, and like boxing or martial arts, what have you. And there's like, he doesn't really, I think, and the philosophy carries through in the company throughout its history is like, you know, tag teams aren't as important. Like that's what you're saying. Like there's some great tag teams and tag team matches that have happened in New Japan history. I love when the Steiner brothers were in there. I loved the team of Hase and Kensuke Sasaki, Hase and Muto and what have you. But again, like you're not going to have the same, you don't have the same level of quality with New Japan's tag team title scene in its history as you do with All Japan's in the 90s, just because like the philosophies of the companies are different enough where like the tag team titles mean a lot more in All Japan.
Oh yeah, no, agreed. Definitely. But yeah, it's even in this, because as I understand it, this period of All Japan was kind of not to the, I wouldn't say not to the standard, but it's kind of, it feels quite different to the early 90s, the mid 90s. And it kind of, there is this kind of feeling of guys having to try and find something to stand out because there's a sense of sameness. So, but despite this feeling and period, it's like they're still capable of putting on fantastic matches like this.
Well, I think one of the things you see with the booking of Ogawa and Akiyama being the tag partners of Misawa and Kobashi, respectively, is that, you know, Misawa is going to get these guys ready in the next, I don't know, if like the Exodus doesn't happen, I totally think Jun Akiyama becomes, you know, Triple Crown champion by 2001. I think Ogawa becomes, I don't think he becomes you know what? He might have become Triple Crown champion because fucking Misawa made him GHC champion at the height of Noah's popularity too. And for good or worse, but like you can see like in the booking, like he's getting Takao Mori and Yoshihiro Takayama to become bigger stars in the company. Like he's getting ready to face himself out as a top star, and he's getting ready for Kobashi, not Kawada. I think to his mistake, he should have focused on both these guys to become he should have had two aces. He should have had Kawada and Kobashi be both like duo aces at the same time. Like, and he's going to step down. Like, he's still going to be a big star in the company, but he's not going to be up there because he's going to run the company because Baba's going to die, you know, or has passed away. And he's like, you know, if he could work it out to like take over the company from Mrs. Baba, that would have been the best deal for All Japan, but it didn't happen. But the philosophy, Mark, I feel is like, okay, Ogawa, Akiyama, Omori, you know, Takayama, Mossman, these guys, I'm going to get ready to take over the company in the 2000s. Like, we've had our time. Kobashi's going to be the next Jumbo Tsuruta of the company. And like, and Misawa's probably thinking, I'm going to be like Jumbo. I'm here to put people over. I'm here to establish. People beating me is going to make them as big a star as becoming the Triple Crown champion. But Kobashi's the one who's going to hold that, you know, that title. He's going to be the guy who's going to carry this company as its champion. I'm going to be carrying the company as its face and not as its champion necessarily. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. It was that sense of succession and building succession. And that's really been Misawa's kind of legacy and almost his strength and weakness as a booker, especially coming into Noah, and I won't go in too long because, of course, this isn't a Noah podcast, is how Noah was constantly blighted by pushing new guys to be the heavyweight champion and then cutting the legs off fairly soon because business struggled. So Misawa's well aware he needs to build these new guys. It's just sometimes it's not successful.
Well, I mean,
it's very successful with Kobashi.
But the thing, what I kind of want to just make maybe our final point on with that is that with Misawa's booking of Noah, like he cuts the legs off of Marufuji, he cuts the legs off of other people. Like, I still think Rikyo should never have been champion in Noah, but I think because he has to establish the company. Like we all have to keep in mind Noah is still a relatively, is trying to establish itself as a company on tour and stuff. It's very successful, but it takes a while to get there from its opening to like the point where like, oh yeah, these guys are still in the main event, but like they're older and they're not as good anymore. And that's, but they're still stars to a lot of people. But if he never formed Noah, if he stayed with All Japan, I don't think he would have had the same problems as he had with the business side of Noah. You know what I mean? Because the business was already established, the brand was already established, and you're just carrying it over, and you're making stars of the younger people on the roster in the dojo training. And that I think people like Morishima would have been way successful earlier. Mm-hmm. I think Rikyo probably would have had a bit more chance to become a bigger star than he actually was. And Marufuji and Kenta, I think, could have had a better chance of becoming legit heavyweight stars in their respective, in like Noah, or if Noah never happened, then All Japan. But those are just what ifs that are fun to speculate on, but who knows ultimately. But that point being made, let's wrap it up here, Mark. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find more of Mark Buckeldee?
Well, post wrestling with when there's big New Japan shows, you'll be able to find my reviews there. When I'm not doing the reviews for post, I will sometimes and occasionally post on my blog, which is scififlow.wordpress.com. From the name, you could tell it was meant to be a mix of science fiction and wrestling, and I kind of stopped writing about science fiction, so I need to get back onto that. And other than that, you can find my my slightly questionable wrestling takes and my very questionable jokes on Twitter at monkey_buckles.
Yeah, I'm not going to get you into why that's your Twitter handle. That's for another time, I'm sure. I think you probably talked about this in a previous appearance on Post Wrestling, maybe with Wei Ting or something like that. But thank you so much for being on the show, Mark. My name's WH Park. You can find me on Twitter at WHPark9.
Oh, and I think you had something that you wanted to mention as well.
I do. As soon as I'm done plugging my own stuff, I got to plug one more of my own thing, something new. You can find me at Post Perez every month with John Pollock and Post Perez bonus with rotating guest host with me. That shows on twice a month, once with John Pollock, once with a rotating guest. And then if you like this show, if you are enjoying the talk about the Royal Road of All Japan Pro Wrestling of the 90s, then have we got some great news for you. We are debuting the first T-shirt for the long and winding Royal Road at store.postwrestling.com. It was designed by an artist I know by the name of Sean McKenzie, and the layout was done by Wei Ting, and it's a great looking shirt. Mark, you've seen some of the art for this. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely going to stand out. I definitely love the characterizations of the guys on it. It captures the inner spirit of them, definitely.
And if you want to support the show, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, and you think, wow, how can I support the show more besides just like listening to it and talking about it on social media? Hey, if you like the show, if you like the people we're talking about, I think you'll like this shirt. Please buy it. Please wear it. Please support it. Please, say, hey, I got this. You should get one too. There you go. Store.prowrestling.com, the long and winding Royal Road t-shirt. And on behalf of Mark, thanks so much to all the fans for listening. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Long and Winding Road. And until then, goodbye.